Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today's subject matter is the hidden stress of curbside service, recognizing and managing invisible stress during pandemic practice. Our presenters today are Dr. Ernie Ward and Julia Squire. Dr. Ward, DVM CVFT, is a 1992 graduate of the University of Georgia Vet School. He is an internationally recognized veterinarian known for his work in the areas of general small animal practice, life extension, and longevity. He has additional specific focus on the areas of practice management, leadership, long-term medication monitoring, and the special needs of senior dogs and cats. Dr. Ward is the founder of the Seaside Animal Care, a national practice of excellence award-winning small animal veterinary clinic, and Doggone Healthy, a practice dedicated to nutritional, behavioral, and integrative care in Calabash, North Carolina. Julie Squire, we welcome today to this discussion BA CCFS, Certified Companion Fatigue Specialist, and a Certified Life Coach. Julie is the founder and principal of Rekindle, and she brings a unique perspective and approach to support the sustained energy and passion of those that work with animals in the challenging fields of veterinary practice, animal welfare, lab, animal research, animal advocacy, and conservation and environmentalism. Julie has over 25 years of experience within leading organizations such as Bayer, IDEX, and Nestle Purina, developing and executing training, workshops, and one-on-one coaching. She is a graduate of SUNY Oswego and a certified companion fatigue specialist through the Traumatology Institute. We welcome Ernie Ward and Julie Squires.
Thank you guys so much. And thank you to all of you for attending today. And most importantly to CC for sponsoring this type of content. It's quite remarkable that a company like CC is so interested in our well-being as a profession. I just can't thank them enough for actually, bringing us together to talk about something that I honestly never thought we'd be talking about, and that is practicing during a pandemic. And I know that many of us have had conversations over the past several months about, number one, how do we physically stay safe from this infectious disease? Then how do we manage our business finances as we sort of try to open up or reopen or whatever that looks like in your part of the world? And then finally, I think we're now starting to turn the conversation toward the impact that it has on us as far as emotions and mental fatigue and compassion fatigue and burnout. And so I really wanted to share today, a conversation that I've been having with a dear friend of mine, Julie Squires, who's a certified compassion fatigue specialist. She specializes in working with veterinary professionals. And we've been having this conversation now for the past several months. And, it's one of those things that we kind of talk about it and we give some platitudes and we say, okay, it's all going to be fine, but there's a lot more to it. And there's a lot of deep stress that's going on. And so today what I want to do is discuss some of the hidden stressors, the things that we're not talking about. And I really want to focus on, what this means when we've changed the relationship between veterinary professional and pet parent. We're so used to being in close physical proximity, to reading each other's body language, to being in the presence of emotions and somehow helping these people, our clients, get through what can be a really emotionally charged time. And suddenly now there's social distancing. We've got facial barriers where we can't see body language. We're dealing with people that are stressed out themselves, coming in, sort of sometimes transferring that anger and frustration to us and our staffs. And so, what impact is curbside service and this quote unquote new normal having on us emotionally? And so, Julie, I really want to talk to you today about, what are some of the things that you're seeing amongst veterinary professionals all across the country? I know you work with lots of groups and organizations and individuals. And then what are the things that we can do to sort of somehow deal with this? So Julie, let's first of all start off by just what do we mean by stress? There's good stress, there's bad stress, so let's just start there.
Yeah, there is, right? So great to be here with you as always. So yeah, like there's good stress and there's bad stress. We actually need some stress. Like if we had no stress, we would actually be bored, believe it or not. And I know it's hard to believe, but we would be. So we need a little bit of stress to actually motivate us. We need just a little bit of stress to have to pay our mortgage or our rent to get us out of bed to go to work. But stress in and of itself is designed for a short-term response to something, right? A physical threat. And that's not really what we're experiencing right now. Stress is designed to be, okay, if my smoke alarms go off in my house right now, the stress response is supposed to take over so that I'm not sitting here talking to you anymore. I'm running out the door with all my animals, right? That's what it's designed for.
And this is a really important tenet to reemphasize, and that is that normal physiologic, we call it eustress in physiology, okay, it's good stress, is followed by a period of recovery. And this is where you gain strength. So if the fire alarm goes off and you run out of your house and let's say there's no fire, right? Well, that now there's a period where you come back and restore. And so you actually get stronger and maybe even faster at exiting your home, but Julie, what's happened now is this stress hasn't stopped. Like the fire alarm is ringing.
Right. Well, and what's so interesting about that is you're right. Like the stress response as it's designed, think about animals. And I just love using the lion and the zebra. The lion chases the zebra and either the zebra gets killed or escapes. Hopefully escapes. Sorry, lion. But and what's then happens to the physiology, again, that zebra's complete physiology changes in order to run away. But then once they get away, their physiology abates back to normal. Like they literally go back to that resting state, homeostasis. That doesn't happen with us humans because we're not dealing with a physical threat. Sometimes we are, but most of what's happening now is mental, like the mental construct of the perception that, oh my gosh, there's too much. The demand is too high. There's too many clients. So now we're staying in a constant state of stress. Here's what's interesting about animals. If you watch animals, like, the zebra again, what a zebra will actually do, one of the things that they will do, many animals do this in the wild, after the threat has gone away, when they know that they are safe, animals will literally shake it off. They literally shake their bodies because they're trying to, again, get their physiology back to normal. So we kind of could learn from that too, but that's a whole, we'll get there.
I love that. Shake it off. Taylor Swift said it best. Okay.
Right.
So I think where a lot of veterinarians are now is we're sitting with something that is persistent, right? This stressor, the fire alarm continues to ring, the lion continues to chase, whatever metaphor you choose to describe it. And we are now out of reserves, like emotionally, right? And I think that's where a lot of vets are getting frustrated. They're also being confronted by clients who are equally as stressed out, right? And now the conversation has turned towards, again, we're creating an adversarial relationship with many clients, right? Because we kind of begin to fear in anticipation that, oh my gosh, this is going to go badly, right? And so we and I love what you always say. You always say, look, we have to first of all start with, when we talk about stress, with how are we perceiving it, right? Because perception is somewhat in our control. So maybe you could elaborate around that.
Yeah. Well, it's I think the best way to actually kind of define that, or to give you some leverage, is separating the facts from your thoughts about the facts. So the facts are, we have 12 appointments this morning. My thought about that is, oh my gosh, there's no way we're going to get through that. That's 12 times, that's 24 times running back and forth in the parking lot. That's 12 people that might be angry. So once you just separate out the facts, okay, wait a minute. We got 12 people that are coming in this morning. Here's my thoughts about that. My thoughts about that are my perception about that. And that's when we give those facts significance. And our power really resides in, how do I want to perceive that? Do I want to be thinking, I could think, roll my eyes and be like, there's going to be 12 difficult situations I'm going to have to deal with. Or I can kind of think about that like, all right, 12 opportunities to blow our clients' minds about, they thought that this was going to stink, this whole social distancing and curbside service, but I'm going to blow their mind with how amazing we can show up, even in that.
Right. And this is that, you guys that have followed me over the years, you always talk about the priming effect. And so what Julie's just described is what I called how you're priming your day. So if you look at that schedule of 12 clients, 24 trips in and out to the parking lot, 12 angry clients, whatever we want to look at that, you've primed yourself to actually expect that from the world. Your perception has shifted and you've now become an adversary, right? Instead of a collaborative relationship, instead of being an advocate, we now are viewing them with trepidation. We are reticent to even engage. This is that priming effect, and it is powerful. And it's how you start your day. This is why, if you go back, I did that video at the beginning of the year on tilting towards optimism and sort of a simple 30-second gratitude practice that I use every day and have for many 30 years now. But the reality is, what are you doing to sort of prime? So Julie, let's talk about that for just a second. The schedule's packed. Yesterday was a disaster. How can veterinarians sort of prime themselves for positivity to say, you know what, today's a new opportunity. How can I get through this?
And, first it's just the awareness that, wait a minute, like, I'm not kidding when I tell you, when I first learned that I could actually choose what to think, I was like, are you kidding me? I've lived, how many decades and no one's ever told me that I can actually choose what I think. Who's been hiding this from me? I just wanted to go to all my teachers and scream at them. Why didn't you teach me this? So when I first learned that, wait a minute, I can actually choose what to think. Like, again, here's the facts. Here is the facts. We got 12 clients that are going to be sitting in the parking lot today. How do I want to think about that? And again, the brain has a negativity bias. It does. Even the most optimistic of us. Again, our glasses may be half full, but our brain wants to see the world through that negative lens.
It has to. The limbic system is there to protect us. If we don't perceive danger, then we don't survive. So you're right. And in fact, it's interesting because some of the latest neuroscience that I've seen, Julie, show that there are about 6 negative cues that pass through the limbic system for every 1 positive. So before it gets to the cortex, where the executive functions can start to say, oh, I'll analyze this, right? The limbic system is biased towards negativity to say, wait a second, I got to let you know all the potential threats out there, even if they're made up, because I cannot afford to let one slip through, right? So, I mean, that's where part of this, you get to control what you think.
Well, and it's so interesting, our brain, it's the most powerful tool on the planet. It's the most powerful tool that's ever been created, but yet it actually isn't designed for our happiness. It's designed to keep us alive, and it's doing a very good job, but it's not designed for overall happiness. But this is where, thankfully, prefrontal cortex, we're able to go, all right, here's the schedule. Holy smokes. My first immediate thought is probably going to be OMG. But then I can step back and go, all right, Julie, deep breath. Hold on a second. Okay, wait a minute. We got 12. All right, here's 12 opportunities. Here's 12 patients that are needing our help. Oh my gosh, isn't it great we get to serve? Like, again, that's where you all of a sudden get to prime your day. I love that. I love what you're talking about. Like, how do I want to think about this? Because our thoughts become our reality. If you look at that schedule in the morning and you're like, well, this is going to be a, storm, then that's what we create.
Right. And I'll say to veterinary colleagues, we want to hear your questions, your comments. So if you would, in the chat section over on the Zoom window, definitely be hitting us up, and we'll be filtering that out and try to insert them throughout the conversation. But one other element, Julie, has really made this particular time more challenging. And that is the fact that we are quite literally faced with an existential threat. I mean, you could die if you contract COVID-19. You could transmit this disease to a loved one and they could die. So that's an element too that I think bears a little bit of discussion, because, that makes this different than just 12 people that are going to be angry with me in the parking lot.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, you're absolutely right. And that's a huge element here that has come up from the beginning. Here it's such a blessing. I feel so much appreciation and gratitude for the fact that veterinary medicine is considered an essential service, because I don't know if that would have been the case 50 years ago. I don't know if that would, so I love just going, wow. And of course, we all believe that and we know how essential it is, but to the same to your point, like, yes, this is scary. And you all, I get it, are putting yourself in harm's way. You're putting your family in harm's way because you're, again, having to interact with the public. That creates a lot of emotion. That creates anxiety, fear. Then you have to be concerned about, well, wait a minute, what am I doing on my day off? Now I'm also potentially can be putting my coworkers at risk. So I have to watch myself. Like, that's a lot. It's a lot to take.
Right. And I will say this, you know, having discussed this with Julie many times and a lot of other colleagues in our profession, you know, to me, one of the biggest challenges that we're facing is the fact that as a species, we're all like in the back of our mind, no matter how far back we try to push it into the recesses of our consciousness, we still have this fear. And this fear then drives a lot of those behaviors, because people really take one of two approaches on this. They say, you know, I'm not a threat, right? Because nobody wants to be viewed as a person who could somehow potentially kill somebody else, right? So then we go into extremes to prove and signal to the world, we're not a threat. We refuse to wear masks or engage in social distancing, right? Because we're like, I'm not the problem, right? It's
Right.
all this other stuff. And then of course there's another end of the spectrum, and this is a spectrum of responses and how people interact with the world. And then that is, you know, go, oh my gosh, I'm so scared of this, that they just retreat into, you know, isolation. And of course, you know, when they do have to come out for whatever reason to bring their sick dog to the vet, then they're really fearful. And, you know, again, when people are either threatening or fearful, that tells our limbic system instantly to say, be on guard, which again amps up our anxiety and stress as a profession. I also want to, Julie, ask you your opinion about this. You know, one of the things that I've been personally concerned about as a communicator, right? I mean, I'm the kind of vet who's in the exam room and I'm using my body language like I am now. I speak with my hands and my face and my voice. And suddenly now we're covered up and we can barely see each other. And what impact is that having on our psyche?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked that, because let's be honest, like, veterinary medicine to me is about connection, it's about compassion, it's about kindness. And like, the reason why veterinarians and veterinary professionals are so loved, and don't believe, don't let your brain wants to be like, oh no, they're not loved. I saw these posts over here.
Right.
Ugh, that's a small percentage. Veterinarians and veterinary professionals are deeply loved by people. Don't believe otherwise. And it's because of the connection. It's because when I go to my veterinarian and they fawn over my animals, I feel a deep connection. And now all of a sudden, and I'm a client now, and I have been to the vet 3 times during this, and now I have to hand off. And again, you know, I know everyone at my veterinary hospital, I'm blessed to have that, but the average person may not. And to be able to hand over your beloved, and there is no connection, because you're right, we're like this. And now you're calling me on the phone to tell me what you found. It feels icky. I'm not going to lie. But, and now again, the reason I bring this up is it feels icky from the client side of things. And I think it's important that we recognize for a second, yeah, okay, this is why sometimes people are behaving badly because it feels icky to them. Yeah. But that whole connection, like, we're missing that, we're losing it. But I think you guys are doing a fabulous job in the ways that you can over the phone, making the connection, which again, that's all you've got right now. And I know some people are using iPads and they're kind of videoing what's going on. And I think the veterinary community is so brilliant. And I know you guys are really thinking outside the box and ways to continue that connection.
Yeah. And, you know, I've been extolling this from day one. Julie, you and I have done a couple of other webinars for veterinary professionals, you know, with me saying, look, with the mask and the plexiglass, you know, I think the video conferencing really does help, because you get to talk like this and be like real people, sort of a little bit. So I think we, you know, we need to understand that these physical barriers, you know, are also, you know, a problem. They're a challenge, because you can't read body language. It makes it, again, it's 1 degree of separation, a physical barrier between you and the recipient of your message. And so, you know, these things do add up, right? At the end of the day, these are little chips that erode away our happiness, our resilience. I mean, these are things that are a challenge. So Julie, I think anybody on this call today, anybody watching this in the future is going to go, okay, we get it, guys. Ton of stress out there. Yeah. So what are some of the things though that you advise, because you're directly helping vets. So again, if you don't know who Julie Squires is, you need to check her out, rekindlesolutions.com. She is amazing. But when you're talking to veterinary professionals and this stuff is coming up, which I'm sure it is in your sessions, how are you advising them to cope?
Yeah, it is coming up. I mean, it's coming up in a huge way. So I work with people privately, but I also, work with veterinary practices and this time, doing virtual stuff. But what's coming up is, I mean, literally, to your point, everyone is stressed and burned out, and from all aspects, right? So we talk a lot about, okay, so let's talk about how are we taking care of ourselves? We come back to the basics. We come back to, remember, like, how are you taking care of yourself? What does your self-care look like? Don't overthink it. Self-care can be so simple. Self-care takes 3 seconds. It's like having a big jug of water next to you and drinking throughout the day. Self-care is going to the bathroom when you have to. Self-care is bringing your lunch so that you don't have to eat a Cliff Bar. So much is kind of taking stock about, how am I treating myself? Because this is a challenging time, and chances are feel like I'm running on fumes. Yeah, the demand has never been higher. I mean, we can't even believe it. We're all like scratching our heads going, where are the clients coming from? Like, nobody really knows, but they're coming in droves. Right. And so it is such time for reflection and some insight of, how am I treating myself? Like, what am I doing for myself? And I get it. You're going to feel really tired at the end of the day. So then look for things that don't require a lot of energy. It actually doesn't require a lot of energy to make sure you're drinking and hydrating all day long. Going for a run takes energy. It may give you some energy that you didn't even know you had. But again, don't overcomplicate it. But start thinking simplistically about what it is that you can do to help yourself. Is it just a journaling practice that doesn't take a lot of energy to open up a notebook and write for 5 or 10 minutes?
Yeah, again, some gratitude practice.
Yeah.
I have a very simple one, because in these times, it feels like everything is against you, that you're losing so much, right?
Yeah.
And so it's important to reflect on what you do have, because right now, if you're watching this, I mean, you're healthy, alive, I mean, you have a business probably, you have people in your clinic that love and depend on you. So those are all very valuable things to be grateful for, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Julie, I'd also like to sort of ask a little bit about the role, and where I'm going with this, of social media, right? Because what is happening, and what I know is happening, is veterinarians are coming home after a long day, stressful day at work, and then they're scrolling the feeds, and two things are hitting them. One, news is so negative. The world is going to heck quicker than you can count, right? And so there's all of that negativity. And then they're looking on their Instagram feed, and they're seeing all the life that they're missing out on, right? Because there are still people posting beautiful pictures, and they're doing amazing things, and you're going, wait a second, I just had 3 people scream at me today. So Julie, what role does social media have in all of this, and how can veterinary professionals deal with that?
I'm laughing because literally I've gotten emails about that same exact thing. I asked my email list early on to tell me like what were some of their challenges. And I got like this whole story about someone who at that time, she's in the veterinary field, but she was furloughed. So she had to stay home. Oh no, it was the opposite. She was working, but she was so jealous of, her colleagues that were furloughed, because to her it looked like they're having a great time. They're gardening, they're having a great time. Couple things there. The first part about the social media, boy, oh boy, I think we need to really, really, really pay attention to how we feel when we're engaging with our social media. I'll be honest, I have really started to step away from it because I notice I don't feel good. It's so much negativity. So really pay attention to how you feel. Again, your work takes so much out of you. And the last thing you need are further things to deplete you. So pay attention. Your emotions are giving you so much information. Pay attention if you find yourself laughing, if it's bringing you joy, or if it's bringing you angst. And if it's bringing you angst, I'm going to ask, and step away, even step away for 3 days and see what happens to your life.
Yeah.
See if the world doesn't fizzle out. But then even to the part of, kind of that jealousy, and I get it. Like social media, let's be honest though, we never post a picture of ourselves, on our worst day. We don't ever.
Right.
I did once though. I actually did once because of that. I actually posted a picture of me like after I had like a complete meltdown in my face, my makeup was all over. And I did it because we don't see things like that. We see everybody having fun and it looks like their life is so much better. So we have to be careful of that. We have to be careful of the life that we're seeing people project on social media, because I can tell you that no matter what people have, and this came up in the pandemic in the beginning of like people were jealous of, the really rich people that were out on their yachts. And they're like, wait a minute, I'm stuck in my house here in upstate New York and you're out on a yacht. It's like, guess what? Even people that have all of that stuff, they all have the same pain and suffering that we all do. They do. And we know this because you don't have to look very far to see people, even in society, that have all of the things, but yet are miserable. And commit suicide and so on and so forth.
So again, if you're out there watching, start to tamper down the news intake, start to really, the question that I've been telling my friends for the past couple of months is this: if you are watching your social media and something comes up that you feel like you need to go show your husband or wife, like, oh my gosh, can you believe this craziness? Shut it down, right? Because that's the angst that Julie just described. That is not being a positive influence in your life. It's getting you angry, right? That limbic system is kicking in and saying, hey, there's a conspiracy. Did you know the government gave us COVID, right? I mean, just crazy stuff, and it's not helping out. Julie, I do want to get back though to, my belief on just physical fitness and exercise, aerobic activity. I mean, I believe that's a really important element. And I know that people constantly say, I'm too tired to do that. And I get it. And I truly do. But there are some tactics that you can use to incorporate simple physical activities, because I'm telling you, anybody that's followed me for the past 30 years knows I'm going to say that this up here does not work unless this is happy and this is strong, right? It's just plain and simple. So do you have any tips that you give for people?
So, and here's why this is so important. What we do know, when we talked earlier about the stress response. So remember, the stress response is designed, again, when there's a real physical threat, and then it goes away when the threat goes away. Because what we're experiencing here is a lot of mental construct that's creating a threat. Like, oh my gosh, we've got 12 appointments. We are in constant state of stress. We're never what's called completing the stress cycle. Because again, the lion is never going away. Because the next day we come into the practice, the lion's still there. So we're in a constant state of stress and we're never able to complete that cycle. So you bring up physical activity. It's the number one way to complete the stress cycle by doing something physical. And the research shows that it's usually about 30 minutes. But when you do something physical, it actually signals to your brain that the world is safe now. That you wouldn't be out for a walk, or you wouldn't be doing yoga, or you wouldn't be out for a run if you're still running from the tiger. So it's signaling to your brain, okay, we can calm down now. We can come back to homeostasis. So again, and I know people say they're tired all the time. And I think one of the best things that I know, I move my body every single day because of just what you described, is I have lots of anxiety, and I've struggled with lots of mental illness my whole life. Moving my body is one of those things that it never fails me. It never fails me. But I'm intentional, and I do it first thing in the morning. When I don't do it first thing in the morning, and it happened to me over the weekend because we were traveling back from vacation, I put it off to the end of the day, and I almost didn't do it because then life takes over. So a big tip is make it first and foremost, even if it means you got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get in 15 minutes to go for a walk with that dog of yours that's looking at you like, hey, Do we go for walks?
Yeah, I couldn't echo that. And many of you know I'm a certified personal trainer. That's my number one tip. And to sort of echo what Julie says about the first thing in the morning, another way you can do that is to actually physically put your things out, your shorts,
Yeah.
your sneakers, your whatever, right? Have them
Yeah.
physically engage and say, I'm sitting these out beside my bed or in wherever, you get dressed, because that act there allows, not only is it intentional, but you've now set up an accountability measure, right? Because if you skip by the sneakers that you laid out the night before with your socks, again, there is this, you have to say, I am not going to do this, which accountability sometimes will prod you or nudge you towards actually doing that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing too, if veterinarians, if you're wondering why this is so important, there's only one thing that science has shown to reset all three major neurotransmitters in the brain. That's norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin, right? Those are the biggies, okay? It's aerobic activity. And if you go back to the 90s, you look at the original Duke University SMILE study, where they actually did aerobic activity against an SSRI, and they found that about 20 minutes of aerobic activity, this is a walk, right? I mean, this is just very light, moderate activity. That is what is needed minimally for most people to sort of reset those neurotransmitters. And that is why you always feel better after you do these things. Now, catecholamines, they don't kick into a lot longer. Like this morning, I was out for a pretty long workout. And yeah, I start to feel a little bit of euphoria and I feel really good towards the end. Maybe it was heat exhaustion this morning. I don't know. It was pretty hot out there. But my point is that, it's that resetting of these three major neurotransmitters that it's so critical, because like Julie said, otherwise you're constantly in this imbalance. Dopamine is flooded. Serotonin is sucked back up, right? I mean, norepinephrine is going all over the place. And so now suddenly you get to go to reset. And that's why I like to do it in the morning also, because now I'm priming myself physically and mentally and emotionally to say, hey, 12 people in the parking lot, I'm going to figure out how to make this awesome.
Love that. And I want to add one thing to that I think is really important too. Our brain loves a win. Our brain loves to accomplish things. So one of the things that, I'm a life coach, so I teach people, how to reach their goals. So one of the things, again, if you're doing nothing right now and your goal is, I want to take a 15-minute walk every day, then start for a couple days of putting your shoes there and putting your shoes on, and you don't even leave the house. You just do that. Then put your shoes on, go to the end of your driveway for a day or two. Give your brain those quick wins. What tends to happen is we're like, it's January 1st. How many times have we done this? I'm going to run a marathon by February 1st. Day one, we run a mile and we're dying. Day two, we're like, forget it, because it's too much for our brain. So give yourself the ability to get some quick little wins so that, again, you build on that momentum.
Yeah. Quickly, too, because I know we are getting some questions, which I want to get to. And
yeah,
so if you do have questions, hit that up there. But I do want to talk about box breathing techniques.
Yeah.
It's something that, anybody, and I'll be honest with you guys, you really should incorporate a meditation into your daily practice. That really, I feel really fortunate to have learned this early in my life, but maybe talk about just basic breathing work,
Yeah. Yeah. So first we have to actually learn how to breathe. I know it seems ridiculous, but most of us, we know how to breathe for survival, clearly. But first, right now, take your hands and actually put them on your belly. And I always like to, especially for us women, send a little love to your belly, because we can be really harsh and we don't like our belly. But take a breath in so that you actually, because in order for breath work to have a calming effect, to actually reset our nervous system, you actually have to belly breathe. So this is not a time to hold your core. This is actually the time to soften your core. No, we're always talking about, strengthen your core. This is a time to let your core go. And just take a couple breaths so that you feel your hands moving as you're taking breath in, so that the breath is going all the way down and, again, into your belly. So you're expanding all the way down into your belly. We normally don't breathe like this.
No.
Now, the other thing you want to pay attention to as it relates to breath work, in order to have a physiological response, is you want to pay a lot of attention to the exhalation. So right now, just take a nice deep inhalation. And on the exhalation, see if you can extend it out almost double time. And again, another inhale. And exhale really long and slow. What box breathing would be There's some variations of box breathing, but it is like a box. In other words, so usually I like to do it to a 4 count. So I'll do a 4 count inhalation, then I'll do a 4 count hold the breath, then I'll do a 4 count exhalation, and then a 4 count extending the breath out. So it would look like this. Now, that, again, is something that Navy SEALs do. If you've watched Brene Brown's Netflix special, she talks all about it and tells a funny story about it. And even just 3 deep breaths, again, where you're really extending the exhalation, will change you. That's something you can do in the OR. It's something you can do in the treatment area. It's something you can do in the pharmacy. It's something you can go into the bathroom and do. Something you can do in the parking lot. For those of you that are
simple. So if you want to learn more, definitely Google box breathing techniques. I mean, that's something that I personally employ. If you have an Apple Watch, they'll remind you to do, simple breathing exercises throughout the day, and you can set your notifications to however you want to do that. So I think it's really important when we acknowledge and are aware that we are undergoing tremendous stress, that we then say, okay, I got it. Let's make sure that we're physically engaging, because it's the only thing we do to reset it. And then finally, before we jump into some questions, Julie, I can't, and you and I have had this conversation many times publicly and privately, but my biggest fear, as you know, when this whole thing kicked off, was going to be substance abuse. And a lot of people initially, when this thing hit, they curled up in a closet with a bottle of bourbon, right? Okay. And I'm not going to condone it. I enjoy a good bourbon as like anybody else, but in extreme moderations. But Julie, there have been people that I think have probably been unhealthily coping with substances and other, and even overeating and things like that. So maybe speak to that just briefly.
Yeah. Well, that's my jam, because that's really why I do the work that I do, is because, personally, I found myself living a life, and with this amazing thing that we call life comes tons of negative emotions, the fear, the anxiety, the stress, the overwhelm, the frustration, the anger. And we as human beings, we don't like to feel negative emotions. And it's never been easier to escape our negative emotions. I mean, this thing right here, pick this up, you don't have to feel any of your feelings. Right. There's food available en masse. There's alcohol, there's shopping, there's, Instagramming, there's overworking, which is very popular too in veterinary medicine. If I just keep working, I don't have to feel my feelings. And we call that buffering. So really what we're doing is we're sort of living on the outside of our lives, escaping all the negative emotions. And here's what I will share with you. This beautiful thing that we call life, it's 50-50. 50% of the time, we're going to feel positive emotions, love, joy, inspiration, excitement, happiness. And 50% of the time, we're going to feel those negative emotions. The skill becomes, can I learn how to feel my feelings? And that is a skill that we have to learn. And, it's what I spend a lot of time teaching people, is actually how to feel our feelings. Our feelings are felt in our body. And we can't do it when we're running from here to there, down to the, into the pharmacy, we're on the phone. We got to make a little space in our life, a little time to sit with ourselves and literally feel our emotions. And I get it. It's not sexy. We want to run the other way, but we do that again because we're afraid to feel these things. And when you get some authority over your emotions and realize that all they are really are these vibrations we feel in our body, and you go, oh, wow, like I drank myself silly for how many years? I used drugs. I had an eating disorder, all because I didn't want to feel a tightness in my stomach and a fluttering in my chest. Like, wow. So, but that is a big thing, because I think that's happening. At first there were some funny memes about, about people putting all of their booze bottles in like their neighbors' recycling containers because no one wanted the garbage folks to know that it was coming from their house. But it's serious, and I want you to know, for those of you that are watching this either live or recorded later, that, hey, you know what? Like, there's an element, you have to first start with some compassion for yourself. The reason why you're doing any of these things is actually, it is an attempt to help yourself, but it fails. So again, that's something that I work with a lot. And actually I'm doing a whole workshop about, how to feel our feelings and how to stop overing this weekend. So But I'm glad you asked that question because it is real.
Yeah, and I do have deep concerns because I'm seeing a lot of colleagues that are, I think, engaging in some, potentially unhealthy habits. And I use the word habit there because, this isn't like, a hurricane party. This is like, a pandemic that's going to last for another year or more. So, we can't continue to have party just because we're feeling down or sad or stressed.
Yeah.
I do want to turn to some questions. So anybody that has questions, definitely put them in the chat session. But I want to take the first one from Ingrid. It says, and Julie, these will just be for both of us, of course. How can veterinary practices best use social media to communicate some of what you're talking about to clients? And so again, maybe, we can help the client understand what to expect and so forth. Yeah. I doubt a lot of clients are aware of the stressors curbside is causing on us as veterinary staff. Perhaps sharing some of it would create a better understanding and compassion for the client's part, and which would ultimately improve the experience for the client's stress. Ingrid, absolutely 100%. I guess probably the first or second video and article that I did both for NAVC as well as all my stuff, so you can go to Dr. Ernie Ward, was on this exact thing. It was like, how do we communicate this curbside practice, this new thing that was just starting back in, I guess those came out in about March. How can we communicate that? Because I knew that being proactive and being ahead of this story was going to help not only manage the expectations of the clients, but reduce some of the frustrations and friction they might encounter, because suddenly they drive up and they go to pull on the door and it's locked. That is a stress-inducing moment right there for a client, right? They've got their sick pet. They're like, what do you mean the door's locked? What do you mean I got to call you, right? So managing those expectations. So Julie, I have found social media, videos, newsletters, emails to be highly effective at communicating to clients that, hey, we're all in this together. You see, so I'm trying to take that, not necessarily to say, hey, cry for us, but just, hey, this is just part of what we have to do to get through this period of time. Do you have any comments on that?
Well, I do, because I think there's a couple things here. I think first and foremost, the reason why, again, we have to come back to, and as human beings, we are self-centered, and that's actually a good thing. It's good to be self-centered. I want to be self-centered when I cross the street, because if I'm not self-centered and a car comes careening down, like, I may not jump out of the way. Right. So we do want to be, so there is a part of it that you have to understand that when when I pull into your practice, I'm thinking about me. I'm not thinking about what's going on in the four walls. I'm thinking about, geez, they said my appointment was at 12:30. It's now 12:45. No one's come out. They must be in there having a party. They're probably having lunch. No one's thinking about me. So there's part of, and this happened to me. I went to, I had to go to an exotics veterinarian with my tortoise, and I waited for 2 hours. And again, what's great is that, I do this work, so I know that everyone is busy, but most people have no idea about what's going on in the four walls. So first of all, what is helpful is having your CSRs be communicating, calling on the phone to be like, hey, we're just running a little bit behind, but we know what this is going on. I think you can use social media maybe to show a little bit, some images, some videos, some pictures of like what's going on in there, so that they have some appreciation of that.
Yeah, how busy, again, just showing that, there's a lot going on that you can't see. It's not as transparent as you're accustomed to. And so again, Ingrid, I love this question. I think that we need to be ahead of this. Definitely check out some of those articles and videos that I made, especially back in March, around, when this thing was really starting to kick off. I would say the other part of this answer, Julie, is that I don't expect this to go away anytime soon. I think that there's a lot of people that in an attempt to shield themselves from the reality that we are living in, that this is a massive pandemic that is killing hundreds of thousands of people in our country, that, they just, let's get back to normal. And I get that, and I appreciate that. But sadly, that's just not reality. I mean, if we do that, of course, it endangers a lot of people. And so I think that as a veterinary profession, we need to understand that we're stuck with this for a while. Okay. I mean, I wish that I could tell you that in a couple of months we're done. Heck, the biggest thing that's concerning to me right now is some of these latest surveys that are showing that, only about half the US population is interested in being vaccinated, right? And the other half is really skeptical. So I think that even if we get a vaccine, the deployment and acceptance and adherence to it may take months and months and months, Julie. So, again, I think we need to adapt. The lion has chased us. We now need to say, okay, I'm safe. I need to adapt. I need to get stronger. I need to build systems. Here at a CC, we've done things on telemedicine. Certainly check out some of the stuff that Julie and I have done elsewhere. But the reality is, Julie, we need to communicate in all forms and fashions. I would definitely, I think one of the things I said in that March article and video was you need to be emailing your clients like every other week and explain to them, hey, how's it going? We want to check in with all of you, let you know what's going on at Seaside Animal Care, right? I mean, those are the types of things I think that do pay big dividends. Don't forget, leave us some questions, definitely in the chat.
Dr. Ward, your questions are coming in on your Q&A line.
Okay, yeah, we will switch over there. Got it. We'll check it out. Okay, all right, let's take a good look. What are the best tools you've found to prepare your clients for a virtual visit? How about for an emergency setting? So, Anne, I think a couple of things. Number one, we address in preparation using social media for sure. The other thing that we have found highly effective is to either text or call the person the day before. And typically this is going to be even an email, but just saying, these are the steps when you come here, you're going to go into a slot, you're going to call us and say, you're in parking space number 5 so that we know where you are, things like that. So I think there are definitely ways to reach out to them. I am a huge fan of when I take the pet inside to then have, a video camera, FaceTime, Zoom, Skype, whatever your preferred thing is, and just kind of have it on a tripod, and that way the client can actually see you do the examination. I think that is really helps build trust in that transparency that we're missing right now. So I think that there are simple things like that. And again, it's as simple as taking your cell phone to each room, buy a couple for your clinics if you need some burners, and just put them on little tripods that cost $10 from Amazon, and just say, hey, we FaceTime you. People really tend to dig that. Emergency settings, a whole nother thing. I was talking with a colleague a couple of months ago. They actually were doing all of their exams they had partitioned off their lobby that had windows to the exterior, and basically they have like vets and these little, set up little tables, the exam tables, and so people can stand outside and actually watch the vet do it there in an emergency clinic. Emergency is really taking a hit right now, at least from what I'm hearing, Julie, because people either their vet is so overwhelmed that they can't get in, so they're going to the ER, or they're kind of waiting on things, kind of to the last minute because they're, a little afraid to go early, right? Because, oh my gosh, it's risky or whatever. Julie, do you have any advice for that question, about preparing in emergencies?
Boy, I think I think it's so much just about an emergency. You're right. Emergency is so much more challenging. You can't really prepare people too much more ahead of time. I do think the more, any way that you can create that visual for people, even if they can't be connected. And I'm hearing about that too, where clients, there are some practices that this happen to have a lot of glass, so they're able to keep clients outside, but they've moved all, the treatment tables up front so they can see that. I don't think I have anything to add. You answered it so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a couple of really good observations and comments from Dr. Crow. Dr. Crow, hi, thanks for being here today. So it says, what about humming and breathing? There's a lot of people that talk about humming. I understand that humming is also helpful, something about vagus nerve recharging. And, Tim, that's actually why box breathing, because it's a vagal nerve response that we're actually getting at. So when Julie was talking about, to actually get the physiologic responses, it's all vagus, vasovagal term. So that's that. Humming, I've heard different things about why humming is effective. I do think that you start to get more into chanting and mantras with humming, the rhythm of it in particular. So I think anything you can do to still your mind, focus, this is sort of a slightly different take on just box breathing, in my opinion. But Julie, any comments on humming and breathing? I mean, obviously we're fans of both.
Right. Yeah. And it just, it makes me think of, it makes perfect sense. I mean, we're really talking about like vagus nerve. We're also talking about like sound therapy. We're talking about, the powerful practices of, chanting and kirtan. And I think all of that, yes, bring it, do it all.
And I'll tell you too, I'm a musical person. Many of you know I've been doing music most of my life. And so just having, Tibetan bowls, so if you like to meditate, those are also great ways to do, because I think the physicalness of me doing these repetitious things. Tim's got another question. Dr. Crow has another question. In the area of PTSD and depression, very convinced that targeted pulse electromagnetic therapy, which is of course the same techniques that a CC uses for their dog products, using a CC loop on the head is very helpful. Absolutely. I mean, the research is stacking up. All that PTSD stuff is legit and amazing. Research with PEMF is showing that it's very effective. Could you comment on this? Julie, I'm a fan. We're watching the research, especially if you guys are curious. The Assisi University has got tons of resources. So if you go to assisi.com or calmercanine.com, they've got tons of resources, and a lot of those papers were conducted, as Dr. Crow states correctly, with people suffering from PTSD and depression and so forth. So Julie, any comments on PEMF?
No, it sounds like you already nailed that one. No, okay. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Yeah, and I think it's really fascinating, Julie, too, just understanding. See, one of the things that if you look at PEMF is we're taking energy waves and we're putting it, targeting it, of course, in this case, to physical structures. And I would just say physical, so you can see the impact that the physical being has on the emotional being. Yeah. And this is where, I think it all we're really at this interesting time where, we in physiology and in medicine for hundreds of years, we split the mind and body apart. Right. And it's only in the past 150 years, and arguably even the last 50 years, that we've started to integrate them into one again. And so that's why all this stuff is so exciting, because, just think, if we were having this conversation, Julie, 150 years ago, we would not be thinking that going out for a walk every morning could make you feel better. We would be like, there's no sense of that, and we would be making up all kind of crazy discussions about us connected to the heavens or whatever. Not that that's crazy, but it's just not physiology. So it's fascinating to live in a time where we actually get to do this. Let's see. Oh, okay. Dr. Crow's got another one. What about areas of the world that COVID has not disrupted the country as it has in the U.S.? And Tim, there's a bunch of stuff coming out of New Zealand addressing that exact issue. There's Indian West that's rounded this up. In Taiwan, there's only 7 people that have died. Yep, they got on top of it early. And it was interesting, their surveillance using cell phone technology to track people, and their contact tracing, was basically really precise geolocation based on cell phones. Budesonide inhalation, yeah, for sure. Inflammation response. So basically, Dr. Crow is talking about the inflammatory response that causes so many of the serious consequences, sequelae of COVID-19. And so can we reduce inflammation? Absolutely. Cytokine release, yeah. A CC does a similar thing as far as reducing inflammation. Absolutely. Great comments for sure. Any other questions here before we sort of wrap up this hour? Definitely hit them up in the chat or the Q&A. We are good to go. Julie, I can't thank you enough for really doing what you do for veterinary professionals. I'm always eager to share your expertise with my colleagues because I think there are a lot of therapists that come into the veterinary world. And sometimes I worry, it's like, okay, so they stopped, they saw an opportunity, but you actually came at this, way before this was a thing. You were talking about compassion fatigue, and I'm being truthful here, before anybody was talking about it. I remember the first couple of times hearing you, and I'm like, what is she talking? Wait, I hadn't even considered some of the things that you were talking about. So I really want to thank you for not only, your willingness to share your expertise and experiences with the veterinary professions, but for your longevity, because you've just kept at it. And I think really you were part of that first wave that said, nope, this is a big problem in your profession. You guys better take notice.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And the reason is because I deeply, deeply, deeply adore the veterinary profession. Like, I really feel like you're my heart and soul. And I've spent near half of my life in the field, and I care so much about all of your well-being. And therefore, by doing that, I know you all take such great care of your patients and your clients. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
you're the kind of people that make it an enjoyable profession for sure.
Wow.
And there's some people that don't make it so enjoyable. But guys, I want to thank you so much for your attention today. Definitely you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at Dr. Ernie Ward. Please hit me up on Instagram if you want to see some of my well care. You can definitely, I post a lot of workouts, a lot of paddling this time of year on the ocean. So if you're into that kind of thing, definitely check it out. Check out Julie at rekindlesolutions.com. As Julie says, she's really has taken a step back, and I totally appreciate it. But you have a wealth of resources at rekindlesolutions.com. Definitely check it out there. And of course, thank you to Assisi, and you can find all of this content and more, Assisi University, assisi.com, calmercanine.com. Assisi folks, you can tell me what I've missed, but again, I want to thank you so much for sponsoring this discussion on a topic I think that's really important. Thank you.
You have not missed anything other than to say that if they think of a burning question that they did not have time to ask either of you while you were on here, they may email us at info@assisianimalhealth.com. We will see that if it's product related, we answer it. But if it's about the wonderful things you've been talking about, we will see that you get the questions for answering. Thank you, both of you. I'm practicing my box breathing now. So
that's great.
So there you go. Wonderful to hear from both of you. Thanks.
Thank you guys.
All. Thank you.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you, Dr. Ward.
Bye, guys.
Take care. Stay
Thanks,
safe.
Assisi. Bye, everybody.